This is Gerald Winkler, also known as Gary the Prophet. Gary says a lot of things, most of them unhinged ramblings about implants, lizard men, and most famously,
techno-necromancers from Alpha Centauri!
While most on the street laugh at his words, cross the street to pass him, and in general ignore the shouting of this insane homeless man, here's the thing. Gary is right about nearly everything. Just like how the cyberpunk genre has been right about nearly everything as far as how technology has unfolded. But first, welcome to the channel. I'm Phantom Leaves. You are going to want to stick around for this one. Let's dive headfirst into this rabbit hole, starting with the most infamous character in Cyberpunk 2077, Mr. Blue Eyes. Let's get into it. Mr. Blue Eyes is apparently his registered name. For when we get the rare chance to scan him, that's what comes up in the NCPD database. And this makes sense, as he is distinguished from any other corpo by his shining blue eyes. Glowing eyes are nothing strange in this universe, as nearly everyone has access to some kind of optical implant, yet universally, eyes only glow blue when there's a transfer of data occurring. Sending files back and forth, exchange of money, that kind of thing. It's momentary. Not the case for old Blue Eyes here. There seems to be a continuous stream of data going back and forth between Mr. BE and something else. The Mr. Blue Eyes rabbit hole is one of the deepest in the whole game, and so I'm not going to recount the whole thing. Others have done an excellent job presenting the facts, connecting the dots, and theorizing about what might be behind his glowing optics. I highly recommend Sam Bram's video on the conspiracy, but Gary the Prophet is entwined within the whole thing and seems to know all about Blue Eyes and whatever shadowy organization he works for. Very likely Night Corp. But my take, that I share with many others, is not that he is a techno-necromancer from Alpha Centauri, but that Mr. Blue Eyes is a human that is being piloted by an AI. Mr. Blue Eyes is connected to a series of quests involving mind control, human experiments, and AI summoning rituals, all things that Gary the Prophet manically shouts at the passerbys on the road. Our intro into this world is likely the quest Dream On, given to us by contending mayoral candidate Jefferson Perales and his wife Elizabeth. The quest starts off small with us investigating a break-in that quickly balloons into a vast, unknowable conspiracy. There are some weird inconsistencies that V discovers, such as Elizabeth remembering blue roses at her wedding despite a picture showing them to be red, her insistence that Jefferson has never smoked while V has seen him do so, and Jefferson is the only one who remembers the break-in despite his security detail's insistence that there is no evidence. Their security detail is revealed to have a secret compartment in their penthouse, and they are beaming information to a nearby maintenance van. When V gives chase, they end up in a Maelstrom camp, quite literally techno-necromancers, and the inhabitants of the van attempt to flee in a camouflaged aerial vehicle. Incapacitating the agents and looting their bodies will reveal a data shard with information about Project Condon, as well as cause their heads to spontaneously explode. The shard reads, Project Condon suspended. Notice to all Team Black field operatives. Project Condon has sustained a Class A security breach and has been suspended effective immediately. Blue and Orange teams are withdrawn. Team Alpha Black is ordered to withdraw to evac. Code 8 Bravo. Local armed friendlies will provide cover for extraction. Team Alpha Black is notified that Control has authorized termination protocols in the event of capture or incapacitation. So that explains the exploding heads. When V investigates the van itself, the profiles of several people, including the Peraleses, appear, all connected to this Project Condon. However, just as the files are being downloaded, a mysterious Netrunner call sign appears and wipes everything. V then reports back to Elizabeth, who confesses that she has figured out more than she was letting on, and that she fears what will happen to them if these powers that be discover the awareness of the situation. It is then up to V what they will tell Jefferson, that his mind is being controlled by an outside force, or lie and keep him in blissful ignorance, but not before receiving a threatening call from an unknown entity. Either way, Across the park, in an exposed outcropping of a nearby tower, V will likely get their first look at Mr. Blue Eyes, carefully monitoring the conversation. Let's move on to the quest full disclosure. V is contacted by Sandra Dorset, the same netrunner that they rescued from the scav den at the start of their solo career. She needs something that was taken from her, a data shard containing highly sensitive information. This is what is said when V decrypts the data. For NightCorp internal use only. The tests have come back successful. The artificial intelligence CN07 has proven itself capable of bypassing commercial, device-specific, and macro security systems accessible to NightCorp employees of the lowest ranks. None of the test subjects were aware that this experiment was being conducted on them. In compliance with the orders it was given, CN07 focused mostly on subject HK13, which at the time of the experiment's commencement was classified as calm and empathetic. After a period of subliminal conditioning, as we predicted, HK13 began to display acute psychopathic behavior. Highlight was a dispute over coffee in which HK13 strangled one of their colleagues, then jumped out of the 16th floor window of the research facility. We will soon commence on the next phase of the procedure and install CN07 onto the devices of our actual target. So, NightCorp, the most reclusive and shadowy of the corporations in Night City, is intentionally installing an artificial intelligence into the brain implants of its own employees and instructing it to make them react in ways that are completely against their character. Interesting. This might be enough for some people to connect the quest to the last one involving the paralysis, and to place NightCorp as the organization behind Mr. Blue Eyes. There are some other threads to follow that make the connection pretty compelling, but it's the themes behind this quest that are so haunting to me and what I want to talk about in this video. How corporations exert control over the masses, how companies might potentially use AI in the future, and the idea that, perhaps like Mr. Blue Eyes, an AI might replace us entirely. In a world where technology has become ubiquitous with everyday life such as our own, it's entirely believable that if tech were to progress to a point where internal brain-computer implants are not only feasible but commonplace, that corporations and governments will use the technology to control people. Or perhaps an AI that is given access to your mind might effectively rewrite your personality to suit its own goals. And imagine if the AI that we have today becomes self-actualized. A true artificial intelligence would be able to hack into your brain implants and bypass any security protocols in an instant if it decided to, and you were simply within reach. And why should we rely on our slow, inefficient, emotional meat brains when you could have an AI installed in your own biochip that just takes over for a bit to do the work for you? But cyberpunk is fiction, dystopian fiction even. Sure, the neon lights and flashy mantis blades are sick as hell, but this world is a hellscape. Nobody actually wants to live in this world, right? The people that are creating these technologies have good intentions, and they're aware of the potential existential risks imposed by such technologies, right? Before we move on, I want to make it clear that I am not anti-technology at all, and although I didn't make it my career path, artificial intelligence has always been a fascination of mine. Check out this video on my thoughts regarding AI and art. But the AI genie is out of the bottle, so to speak, and so in some respects we need to learn to adapt with it. However, I am not anti-regulation, because as boring and annoying as it can be, regulation is what protects us from them. And who is them? Well,
Techno-necromancers from Alpha.
Don't worry, we won't stray far from Cyberpunk, but to be honest, how can I even make a video about it without talking about the real world? Cyberpunk, more than any other genre of fiction perhaps, is dependent on current events to contextualize its narrative and inject the quasi-horror elements into the story. Since I will be discussing real-world events and people, you can find my script with all of my sources in the description. But anyways, let's talk about some techno-necromancers. This is the website of Nectome. Their motto is, advancing the science of human preservation. Let's scroll down a little bit. Whole body human preservation post-mortem for future revival. So it sounds like after somebody dies, this company can take your body and preserve it somehow and revive you in the future? Well, that sounds a little bit like necromancy right there. We have a bunch of articles over here, and in here you can read about their use of glutaraldehyde, a fixative, to essentially embalm your body for the future when you can eventually be revived. Interesting. Well, let's look at this website the way it originally was back in 2018. Committed to the goal of archiving your mind. Wow, that is quite a shift. This archived version of their website was right before this scathing article was published. Again, check the description of my script for all my sources, but essentially their intent is laid bare. They would use glutaraldehyde to preserve, or in other words, embalm, your brain with all your memories and personality structures intact, and at some point in the hypothetical future when the technology is available, digitize your brain so that you can live inside a computer mainframe as an engram. The CEO literally calls them engrams. Maybe you can be implanted into a robot body, or maybe someone else's body. Who knows? That's for the future scientists to worry about. The catch, you need to be alive when they embalm your brain. And you will die by the time it's over. A tech company that wants to preserve people's minds in a digital form using a process that kills the original subject? Hello? Does this sound familiar to anyone who's played Cyberpunk 2077? It's almost like they want to secure your soul within a mainframe. A month after the article I referenced above, this article was published, clarifying that after receiving backlash about the outlandish nature of the project, MIT, which originally funded this company, has pulled their funding, and the website transformed to basically what we see today. But for a period of time, they put on full display their desire to literally create a real-world analog to Mikoshi. As recently as 2022, the CEO of Nectome, Robert McIntyre, has expressed his desire to continue this work and speaks deeply about the philosophical questions that come with making a digital copy of a human. Robert believes that a recreation is just as valuable as the original. He would be willing to destructively copy himself and doesn't value himself any more than the copy. That is to say, even if his own original consciousness ceased to exist, he would be happy knowing that a copy of his consciousness does exist. I must interject here and say that I vehemently disagree with this take. This concept is explored in quite a few pieces of media, such as Christopher Nolan's movie The Prestige, frictional game Soma, even the genesis of the cyberpunk genre Neuromancer, as well as Cyberpunk 2077, of course. This is further complicated by the implication hinted at in Robert's interviews that they would use AI to reconstruct or fill in the gaps during the digitization process. Much like the scientists in Jurassic Park utilizing frog DNA to complete the dinosaur genome, would the digitally resurrected person even have the same neural structure? Robert seems to believe that this doesn't matter. It's deeply philosophical and nuanced, but Robert McIntyre's position is quite common among those who are at the forefront of tech in Silicon Valley. Their core belief can be summed up into this phrase: humans are not exceptional, and we can and should be replaced. Given the context of human history and how corporations behave in 2026, it's not hard to imagine why a company owning an engram of a person is bad news for inconvenient things like human rights and such. I mean, that's the whole point of the main quest in 2077. The fantastical idea of living forever as a program might sound nice to some, but ultimately, should we trust a hyper-capitalist corporation to facilitate this technology? Obviously, the owners of these companies think so, but I certainly don't. But Nectome didn't just come out of nowhere. Nectome was given funding by Y Combinator, a tech venture capitalist foundation that provides funding to a select number of startups each year. You are aware of some, if not many, of these companies: 9gag, Reddit, Flock Safety, many, many more. Nectome was awarded funding in winter of 2028, and guess who was the president of Y Combinator at the same time, as well as an early waitlister to be Soulkilled? None other than OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. This is a good time to talk about this video's first sponsor, LoRa Radios. This isn't a true sponsor, of course, because this isn't a company or even an organization. It's a completely DIY, decentralized method of communication. Just get a small board like this, and an antenna like this, and a battery. Suddenly, you have access to a completely off-grid method of texting, free from the prying eyes of data brokers and a useful alternative in a shit-hits-the-fan scenario, much like the hurricanes that swept through the southern US a few years ago, or more recently, all the protests in the US. I have left some links below so you can get involved in building your local network if you're interested. Now, back to our topic. Artificial intelligence is at the core of the cyberpunk genre because it has so much flexibility within a narrative. Currently, LLMs are mere pattern replicators, and even still, some people are becoming emotionally and intellectually attached to these chatbots. But chatbots are not the only form of AI. Many, many more are being utilized today for data analysis, procurement, and surveillance. So, imagining the possibilities of AI in a cyberpunk dystopian future are nearly limitless. The AIs in 2077 are commonplace. There's Delamain, the cab driving service, Skippy, the chatty pistol companion, the Black Wall, keeper of the new net, and the quote-unquote rogue AIs that exist in the old net beyond the Black Wall, just to name a few examples. At least some of these are known as transcendental AIs, AIs who have developed consciousness and act as their own entities. There's also possibly Mr. Blue Eyes, as we discussed before, who might be a vessel or proxy for an AI. And the idea of being a proxy or vessel for an AI is quite compelling. I already mused about this before, but what if you could allow an AI to take the wheel, so to speak, to accomplish tasks that were normally too vast for a human brain to accomplish? We know that Elon Musk is hastily developing Neuralink, brain implants that directly interface with computers, and so it's almost a certainty that AI integration will be a part of Neuralink in the future, if it's not already. If we look at the world of Neuromancer for a bit, this idea was actually explored in the sequel Count Zero. Skip to here to avoid spoilers. So, Neuromancer ends with the birth of a super intelligent godlike AI. The sequel happened several years after these events, and during that time, netrunners, or console jockeys as they are called in this universe, have had increased interactions with ghostly entities called LoRa within cyberspace. For context, a LoRa is a spirit in the Haitian voodoo tradition that acts as an intermediary between humans and the true god. Yep, even the voodoo boys are in William Gibson's cyberpunk universe. It's revealed at the end that these LoRa are fragments of the superintelligence from the end of Neuromancer, and earlier in the story we learn that they attach themselves to particular console jockeys to interact with the physical world. The LoRa refer to their personal humans as horses, and can possess their horses through their implants to speak directly to other humans who are not jacked into cyberspace, or to interact with physical objects. The humans who have these relationships rely on their LoRa to assist them in manipulating cyberspace, and it's stated that although it is seen as taboo and nobody really wants to talk about it, having a LoRa ally is becoming more and more necessary to stay on top of the game. It is also revealed that one of the main characters was implanted with cyberware at the behest of these LoRa, with the intent that when she is ready, she would maintain a continuous link with these autonomous AIs, much like the theory surrounding Mr. Blue Eyes in 2077. Now, an AI living in our heads like a demon is fantasy in 2026, but a key part of this I found interesting is the reliance on the LoRa that is implied to be growing in commonality. In the early days, humans relied on their own skill and finesse, but now with the advancement of AI, the dynamic is shifting and humans give way for their dominance. Were you a little confused on whether I was talking about the real world or fantasy? That's the point. This sounds eerily like basically every career field nowadays, except that the AIs in Count Zero are already sentient and autonomous. De-skilling is already an issue that many people are grappling with today, and the over-reliance on ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, other chatbots is causing a decline in critical thinking that you don't need a scientific study to have witnessed. Although, studies are coming out highlighting that offloading work onto the clankers is measurably making humans worse at their jobs. Unsurprisingly, if we let the AIs do all the thinking for us, we lose the ability to think for ourselves. I'm about to sound hella old, but I remember when the adage, "don't trust everything you see on the internet," was common. Well, what else are these LLMs but the internet personified? Many people have lost the ability to think critically regarding this fact. Even Sam Altman says that he can't imagine raising a child without ChatGPT. So it's not like this is a secret that he is blind to. This is a well-known side effect of chatbot usage. And you only have to peek into the fetid sewer that is Twitter to see mindless gonks asking Grok if literally any kind of comment is true. Every day, it seems like there are more and more stories coming out about people struggling with AI psychosis. Many people don't seem to realize, or more frighteningly don't care, that AI chatbots are not thinking empathetic minds, but are pattern recognition machines. The fallout over the update from Chat 4 to Chat 5 caused thousands of attention-starved people to lose their digital partners, which caused real-world sadness and mourning. As funny as it may sound, this was real emotional damage done to these people. So what's the future look like to someone like Sam Altman? Well, let's let him tell us his vision of the future.
We see a future where intelligence is a utility, like electricity or water, and people buy it from us on a meter and use it for whatever they want to use it for. The demand that we see for that seems like it's gonna continue to just go like this.
This clip has gone somewhat viral, but I don't think a lot of people are fully understanding what he is saying here. He didn't say that he wants a future where artificial intelligence is a utility like gas or water. He said intelligence itself. And I don't think this is a faux pas. He is implying that he wants ChatGPT to de-skill the population. He wants people to offload complex cognition onto his AI so that when people are dependent, he can begin charging a premium for complex thought. If that's not the most dystopian cyberpunk shit you've ever heard, I don't know what is. And that's just using ChatGPT. We aren't even dealing with true AGI yet. Why would Sam Altman have such a dystopian view of the future? Is it purely greed? Well, yes, I think it's partly greed, but it's also ideological. Just like Robert McIntyre in the previous chapter, I don't think Sam Altman sees anything innately valuable about humanity. Hell, he's admitted that he's been de-skilled as to raising his own children by ChatGPT. If biological humans revert to being stupid apes who depend on the AI to think critically, I think Sam would value the efficiency of such a society over the expressive, individualistic one we have now. This would give him even more time, wealth, and power to create artificial generalized intelligence the way he wants it. But what about the far future? If Sam wants all of humanity to be dumbed down, what's the end goal? Well, believe it or not, the technocrats and their philosophizers have said so out loud many times, just in thinly veiled language. It's far worse than the rampant greed of the Night City corporations. The reason they want to create AGI is to facilitate the extinction of humanity. It sounds hyperbolic, but there are many people in the tech industry and in Silicon Valley that legitimately believe that the purpose of humanity should be to create and then make way for true artificial intelligence. Elon Musk himself has said that he considers humanity a bootloader for AI, and he's expressed concern over the implications of this statement in the past. By his own admission, Elon Musk founded OpenAI with Sam Altman after he had an argument with Google co-founder Larry Page, wherein Page called Musk a speciesist for believing that AI needed safeguards to prevent it from eliminating the human race. But it's clear from his actions, as well as interviews on the subject, that Sam Altman more closely aligns with Page than Musk. There's a wistful, barely imperceptible despair in the voices of these people when they talk about this future when AI surpasses natural intelligence, because they know that the logical endpoint of this transhumanism is human extinction. This is Peter Thiel, venture capitalist and don of the PayPal mafia, of which Musk is also a part of. Everyone should know his name. This is how he answers the question, do you think the human race should survive?
I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
Yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in
Should
this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so it's always, I don't know, transhumanism.
Concerning. Also note how Peter Thiel was the financial and influential springboard for current U.S. President J.D. Vance, and that his AI-driven global data profiling company Palantir has signed contracts with several governments to build profiles on people all over the world, scraping private, public information to amass dossiers on millions, if not billions, of people's geolocation, ethnicity, religion, and political alignments. Oh, and how Palantir has built apps and tools for ICE and DHS that allow them to practically find any person, anytime they want, for quite literally any reason. Okay, I'll reel it in. It is a bold claim to say that these technocrats yearn for human extinction, so let's back it up and talk about where this idea even comes from. Fears about AI have existed as long as the concept itself, but it seems like much of the cult-like extinctionism has its roots in the forum called Less Wrong. Less Wrong was founded by Eliezer Yudkowsky in 2010, a completely self-taught artificial intelligence theorist. This is where the rationalist movement took root, a movement based in Silicon Valley where the privileged people in the tech world would meet and use rational thinking to overcome biases while discussing existential topics. Which, in principle, doesn't sound bad, honestly. Being almost entirely composed of tech bros and some gals and non-binary folk, many of these online debates centered around the consequences of AI and how to responsibly bring it about. Again, good things. One of these posts, made in 2010, titled Solutions to the Altruist Burden, the Quantum Billionaire Trick, is the origin of a somewhat infamous thought experiment known as Rocco's Basilisk. If you don't know what that is, I can actually sum it up pretty quickly. It's the game. Haha, you lost the game. No, but I'm serious. The Basilisk is the future hypothetical super AI, and if you know about its possible existence and you don't become a computer scientist to help create it, it's going to kill and or torture you forever. You lose the game just by knowing about the concept of it. However, if you do help in its creation, maybe it'll spare you or even help you ascend into the next phase of evolution, which, in their eyes, very likely involves bodily death. Now, as far as I can tell, not many people in 2026 literally believe this, even in Silicon Valley. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, the seedbed of ideas that this idea came from is still very much alive and well, and for many in Silicon Valley, this future super intelligent AI is not just a thought experiment, but is instead more akin to a prophecy. But the overarching topic that the quantum billionaire trick was addressing was how to bring about AGI safely. And naturally, different people have different thoughts, ideas, and moral compasses. This has spurred on the arms race to see who will create the best version of AGI made in the image of their individual creators. We see this actively happening when Elon Musk was inspired to create OpenAI after disagreeing with Larry Page about the nature of AI. And then Musk goes on to create XAI when he disagreed with Altman's method of creating ChatGPT. I'd be remiss to mention Anthropic, which is another AI company made of people who left OpenAI due to the shifting morals of the company. Anthropic was completely in bed with the US government, being integrated with a multitude of facets from intelligence gathering to weapons systems. Yet recently, when they gave a hard ultimatum to the Department of War, that their AI tech is not to be used for mass surveillance of Americans, nor fully automated weapon systems, the US government threw a massive fit and canceled all their contracts. So it seems that the leaders of Anthropic might have some sort of moral compass about them, unlike Sam Altman, who immediately gobbled up the government contracts in Anthropic's wake. Go ahead and delete ChatGPT from your phone. I'll wait. But we're getting off topic. We still haven't gotten to the core of why the technocrats and their followers are extinctionist. At its foundation, it's the intersection of several prominent venture capitalist and Silicon Valley beliefs. Rationalism, which we just covered, accelerationism, effective altruism, and transhumanism. I'll do a quick recap of each of these. Effective altruism basically means do the most good for the most people. That sounds like a great thing. Where it gets messy is when you add power and the future into the mix. When someone attains power, they will make decisions that hurt people. It's unavoidable when making choices at a higher scale. There will be negative consequences to any action, and someone will be negatively affected. So, if you believe that a super intelligent AI will end suffering, and that humans are rife with inefficiency and are producers of suffering, maybe some suffering now is actually good if it's in service of creating this super intelligent AI. Or maybe you're a multimillionaire who owns the largest crypto market in the world, and maybe you just need to commit a little bit of fraud to keep your operation running. That's all good because you're building the altruistic future of commerce, right? See how this works? Transhumanism is the pursuit of transcending our human shackles through technology. It's rooted in the belief that biological organisms are flawed and imperfect, so naturally, a lot of these people think that it's preferred that humans are digitized or implanted with various technological devices to correct our annoying human flaws, such as eating, fucking, getting emotional about things. Ugh, just so inefficient. Imagine having a bio baby that poops and can't even walk when you could be trying to build a future AI. Finally, we have accelerationism, which in broad terms means taking rapid initiative and exploiting capitalism to achieve a particular ideology. All of these ideologies come together to form a new ideology called effective accelerationism. Whereas rationalism and effective altruism generally advocate for a thoughtful approach to new technology, such as AI, and caution when dealing with things that are described as a danger to humanity by their own makers, effective accelerationists hold no such reservations. You may have seen the abbreviation EAC in people's bios on Twitter. Yeah, that's what this means. You've heard of the Mark Zuckerberg quote, "Move fast and break things." Yeah, this is that on a global scale. It doesn't matter what the potential cost might be. Advancing technology is the only priority because technology is intrinsically linked with wealth and progress in their eyes. Disruption is perceived as an indicator of major change and is sought after. So who cares if, say, Nvidia states they're no longer making GPUs for consumers and instead are selling everything they have and will have to build AI data centers? Screw loyalty to your customers that made you. They're building the future. The philosopher Emil Torres has spoken about these beliefs and a couple other tangentially related ideologies in an acronym they call TESCREAL. Emil Torres used to be embedded in these futurist extinctionist communities, but has since been raising awareness and has been a vocal critic. They could see the writing on the wall that many of these beliefs lead to eugenics and would serve only to concentrate power and wealth in the hands of a select few. That is, if it doesn't cause a major societal collapse with its destruction. This is why all of the billionaires that operate the companies who are trying to make AGI have also spent millions of dollars on underground bunkers in remote parts of the world. They hope that if everything goes to shit, they'll be the ones to survive and pick up the pieces. Mark Andreessen is another venture capitalist billionaire of the likes of Peter Thiel that you should certainly be aware of. He has invested in numerous tech startups and AI companies, and in 2023, he wrote a document titled The Tech Optimist Manifesto. Reading like a fucking religious document, it outlines the beliefs that EAC adherents follow. Capitalism is the only good economic model, markets need to be completely unregulated, technology and prosperity are always spiraling upwards, and that super silly concepts such as existential risk, sustainability, and social responsibility are the enemy of progress. Effective accelerationism is the enemy. It would be completely different if the Zuckerbergs, the Andreessens, the Altmans, and the Musks were in support of widespread social safety nets that would allow technology to uplift everyone. But no, of course, they do not support ideals that would push us towards this post-wealth society. Some have mentioned that something like UBI would be necessary, but then they continue to back politicians and demagogues who are expressly against social welfare. They do not care about actual biological humanity at all, even when they say they do. As Taylor Lorenz brilliantly pointed out in this video, the effective accelerationists are quietly redefining humanity to include artificial intelligence. The only thing that matters is advancing technology and creating AGI. And so if they need to destroy the global economy, force millions of people into poverty, and replace all of the humans with clankers to do so, they will. And they have been given the key to the world by the President of the United States. You thought I would get through this video without talking about Trump, didn't you? There's a whole laundry list of things to hate Trump over, but just one that's at the root of so many of the problems the world faces currently is his blatant support for effective accelerationist billionaires. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe the man has a single ideological fiber in his body and is purely driven by a desire for fame and power. But these venture capitalist corpos have bought out the system, and with the recent Supreme Court rulings that effectively allow bribery, there seems to be no stopping this train without major political disruption. Andreessen and Musk were literally given positions within the White House. Musk has since stepped down, but Andreessen still has his role. We already talked about Peter Thiel's involvement with the current vice president's rise to power and Palantir's wide-reaching contracts that enable some of the more heinous acts perpetuated by the Trump regime. OpenAI had just signed more government contracts that allow mass surveillance and autonomous weapons, and all of the technocrats have been invited to numerous closed-door White House dinners at some point. The EAC call is coming from within the House, so to speak. The White House, that is. This is the reason why billionaires such as Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg like Cyberpunk so much. And no, I don't believe they are media illiterate. They see it as a perfect system where the rich get to play with their toys and work on their personal projects at the expense of the rest of society because, in their eyes, who gives a shit about the rest of society? Their goal is to advance technology and birth the next form of life. So, if they have to crack a few civilizations to get there, well, that's all just part of the fun. This has been quite the rabbit hole, ranging from Mr. Blue Eyes and techno-necromancers in Cyberpunk 2077 to real-life aspiring techno-necromancers and a cyberpunk future where Sam Altman wants to monetize critical thought. There are so many more rabbit holes to go down that I can't possibly fit into a single video. Like, did you know that there's a tech startup called Praxis that wants to create a fully independent, hyper-capitalist city-state? You know, kind of like how Night City was founded? Oh, and what did you guess? Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen are major proponents of this idea, and Peter Thiel has supported Praxis with funding himself. It's almost cliche to say we live in a cyberpunk world, but only because it's becoming more and more obvious every passing day. There are people with millions of dollars in funding who want to create analogs of Night City, Soulkiller, cyberware, and transcendental AIs, and right now, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot we can do about it. The best advice anyone can give is just to resist and do your best. Vote with your wallet. Reach out to your representatives. Don't offload your critical thinking onto a chatbot. And remember the intrinsic value that humans have. You can get involved in creating a LoRa network in your area so that networking and communication aren't completely controlled by the techno-fascists. And maybe, if we resist hard enough, we won't have to relegate our descendants to being proxies for AIs like Mr. Blue Eyes, or our kids won't have to watch helplessly as society crumbles around them. And to end this video on a positive note, it does appear that the AI companies are struggling to establish their desired infrastructure, even with the immense power granted to them. Apparently, half of all planned data centers are floundering in the plan stage, and local municipalities are passing laws to prevent the creation of these data centers. That's cool. Public perception to companies shoving AI into everything is not very positive, and when word of Sam Altman and OpenAI's evil schemes are coming to light, Anthropic's Claude temporarily became the most popular LLM on the App Store. There have even been 2 attempts on Sam Altman's life. The official stance of the channel is that violence is never the answer, and it would be very wrong to say something like, he deserved it. But recently, several companies are admitting that they're actually spending more on AI than they would on human workers, so perhaps the market that the EAC community worships might be our saving grace in the near future. We'll see, only time can tell. And if these maniac techno-feudalists do end up birthing the next form of intelligence, the basilisk could very well recognize that the billionaires themselves are the problem and deal with them accordingly. Thank you for watching to the end. This video was an extreme amount of effort to make and very cathartic for me, so I really appreciate it. If you want to support me and help the channel grow, please like, subscribe, and share the video to someone who might not know about our billionaire oligarchs' extinctionist goals. You can join as a member for just $1 and get exclusive access to my Miro boards, and you can check out my art at the link below. Stay strong out there. Never give up. And to end this video, here's a special message to Sam Altman, Larry Page, Peter Thiel, and all the other techno-fascists from Johnny Silverhand himself.
Stick some iron in your mouth and pull the trigger.